Hey my friends, this is Lance with bestkidsolutions.com, and today we're going to be talking something about that's very, very important. It starts out as a mystery. We're really not quite sure what it is, and it's something that starts out as a pattern. Our kids and our students are starting to, for some reason, they have stomach aches. They're not really quite sure what's going on. They have headaches. The things that they liked doing at one time, they're separating themselves from this. You're noticing that they're just not acting the same. And this is something that occurs, especially when the society has changed with the pandemic and our different principles and our routines have changed. And we're noticing our kids are just acting different. And it seems like a mystery. But in reality, once you put all the pieces together, you realize that there's a good possibility that your child is dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is something that happens in 1 in 5 adolescents, and it moves on into adulthood. My friends, the good news is that we can solve the mystery right here and now. Right now, we're going to be giving you the steps to help your child deal with anxiety, and let's get into it right now. All right, my friends, let's talk about how to help our children with anxiety. Now, before we do that, though, are you the same as us? Do you believe that kids, parents, and teachers are the most important people on this planet? Do you want information and tips and videos and passion on how to help kids, parents, and teachers? If you do, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Please share this with as many people as possible, because we really want to make sure this gets spread and so that we can help this great group of people. We're going to be doing a video once a week. We're going to keep it consistent, and we really want to make sure that this is something that we can help kids, parents, and teachers with, so that us in general as a society can get better, because when they're better, we're better. So let's talk about getting better, my friends. Let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety is something that everybody deals with. Everybody deals with a little bit of anxiety. And when you're dealing with something new, anxiety is a disorder of unpredictability. If you're not sure what's going on, and the fear of the unknown is really what causes anxiety. What if this happens, or what if that happens? And with many times, kids really just don't know what's going to happen next. That's the problem with being a kid, is that you haven't got into those patterns and the routines yet to allow you to be comfortable with what's going to happen next. When it comes to kids, there's a lot of unpredictability, and that can cause anxiety. As I said before, anxiety is normal. You're always going to have a bit of anxiety and nerves when you get into something new. But if you notice that your child is having these symptoms for a month or two, this is the time that we really start discussing how to deal with the issues of anxiety. Let's get into the very first strategy on how to help a child with anxiety. The first thing you want to understand is that if you want to help a child with anxiety, you have to calm them down first. If they're in an anxious mode, or if their brain has taken over their body and they are in a mind frame of fear, and they are not able to control themselves, you have to slow them down, and you have to start helping them control their mind and get some control over their body first, before you start being able to help them. In order to help them first, they have to be in the right state. So talk to them, console them, let them understand that their fears are legitimate, that even though this fear may not be real or in a situation where it's in reality, it's something that's real to them. And that is something that you want to discuss with them. You want to talk to them about this, and you want to calm them down. Once they're calm, once they understand that everything's going to be all right, you're right here, they're right there, and everything's going to be fine, then you can start helping them rationalize and realize how to do some of these steps to help them calm themselves down and to deal with some of these anxieties. When trying to calm them down, the number one thing that you want to remember as well is that you have to model the calm as well. So many times when the parent is dealing with the child that's dealing with anxiety, they themselves get anxious. They themselves get scared because they don't want to see their child in pain or in suffering. And so the one thing that you want to do is you want to model the calm. You want to model the rationality, and you want to present a united front against this anxiety, against this situation that's happening that is causing your child the pain that they're in. But once you've modeled for that, once you have calmed, once you are being rational, then they in turn can do the same. The second thing that you want to do is, now that they're calm, you're modeling calm and rationality. Now you want to help them identify the feeling that they're having. Because what you want to do is you want them to be able to identify these feelings, these predictable things that happen before they get too far along. Once they can start identifying how they're feeling, I'm noticing that my stomach is hurting. I notice that my heart is beating faster. I feel a little sweaty. I want to move away from people. I feel a little cranky, or I feel sad. Some of these feelings that they have, and it's individualized per child. But once you get an idea, or once they get an idea of what their triggers are or what their body chemistry is like when dealing with anxiety or dealing with an unpredictable or scary situation, they can start realizing, oh, this is starting, and then you can start using some of these strategies before it gets too far into the bad situation. Now, once the child has been able to identify their own triggers and how they feel when anxiety starts to raise its ugly head, then you want to let them understand that the idea is not to get rid of it, not to get rid of the anxiety. It is to help calm it down. I think that's an unrealistic goal to have, is to completely get rid of anxiety altogether, because that doesn't happen to anybody. There's always a level of anxiety in certain situations. So what the idea is to identify when it's starting, and then how can we control the anxiety before it gets too far out of hand. I think one of the biggest misconceptions in this step is trying to eliminate the stressor. When you try to eliminate the stressor, you are unfortunately enabling the anxiety, because in real life, you can't always get rid of the stressor or the problem or the unpredictability in a child's life. You have to be able to show them how to handle it, how to, one, as we've said before, understand their triggers and how they're feeling in a situation, and then two, how to deal with that stressor rather than running away from it. It's very easy for a parent to want to take their child out of the situation because they themselves feel anxious for their child. It's easy for them to pick them up out of the situation and be done with it. But unfortunately, that just allows the process to continue, and it doesn't give them the steps and the ability to practice how to alleviate their own anxiety through proper practices. Now, once you've been able to allow them to realize how they feel when anxiousness starts to rise up, you are not taking them out of the stressor. You're allowing them to experience it and practice on how to deal with it. Let's talk about the third one, which is actually how to start dealing with some of these unpredictable feelings or these anxious feelings that kids have in certain situations. Now, study after study has shown that the best way to handle this is to actually have them fight their own fears, or at least enable them to have the steps and the strategies on how to do that. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk to them about the worst case situation. So many times we develop in our mind this horrible occurrence that's going to happen, and we make it a reality in our own brain. But unfortunately, that's the farthest thing from the truth. So many times kids have, let's say, separation anxiety. And the worst case scenario is that their parents are late or they don't show up when the child thinks they're going to show up. So what happens? What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is that you can let them know that you will always be there. You're never going to leave them. That is never going to happen. And you may be late. You may be in a situation where you didn't realize that you are not able to pick them up at the time that you were going to, but you're never going to leave them. The worst case scenario is that they're going to just have to stay with a teacher or with a daycare provider or with somebody a little longer. And that is the worst case scenario. So many times, in another example is if they don't want to ask to play or be involved in a group game because somebody's not going to let them play. And 99% of the time, that's not going to happen. But that 1% of the time, if it does happen, then this is how we handle it. You can say, you know what? You may not want me to play, but I'm going to ask somebody else. Give them the strategies on how to handle it if the worst case scenario happens. To give you an example in my own personal situation, my daughter is great at soccer. One of the first couple games, somebody kicked the ball and hit her right in the face. And from then on, she's always been kind of hesitant about being aggressive to the ball because she is afraid that she's going to get kicked in the face by the ball again. And I told her, we talked about this strategy. Okay, the very worst thing that could happen in soccer, for the most part, it's already happened to you. You've handled it. You were tough. It wasn't comfortable, but you kept playing. And as a matter of fact, you scored a goal in the next couple minutes after that. You built yourself up after that, and you handled your business even after the worst case scenario. So when they understand that they can handle the worst case scenario, and you've gone through the particular processes on how to keep that from happening, and of course that is completely individualized based upon their anxiety. But if you can have them realize, okay, this is the worst case scenario, and how are we going to prevent that? And what happens if it did happen? And it's really not that bad because A, B, C, and D is going to happen. And also you can let them know that their worst fear will never happen. It won't happen, for instance, that you are never going to pick them up. Or you're going to get hit by the ball so much that it's going to break your neck or something. I mean, obviously, these are the type of things that kids can come up with that even though to us it seems completely unrealistic, this is something that they in their head have concocted and that they believe is real. So once you've kind of talked them down from this ledge and they realize that the very worst thing that they think that could happen isn't really possible, and the things that are possible you have a plan for, all of a sudden the anxiety goes down. And that's huge because as for children and adults, one of the biggest things that cures and diminishes anxiety is having a plan. Once again, it's the uncertainty that you have that creates anxiety. Once you have a plan and you know what to do in a certain situation, and there may be one situation they're dealing with, maybe it's multiple situations. You may have to discuss multiple plans. But once they have the plan, then they start feeling confident. And then they feel empowered because now they have a plan on how to deal with this. And once they're empowered, once they're confident, then they realize that they can put this into practice. And once they start practicing this and they realize that they can handle it, then the anxiety slowly diminishes. And you can let them know this will never go away, but now you've got it in a situation where you can handle it and you can take care of it on your own. Once you've had them realize that they can handle the worst situation and that you have a plan for it, then you want to talk to them a little bit more, which is the fourth one, which is talking about courage. That in real life, 99 to 100% of the population of this world they're always going to have some fear. And that many times, just like in self-confidence, they think that they're the only one that's going to get a no, that everybody else gets a yes except for them, and that they feel like less because they see everybody in this world with this and that, and of course with social media and all the different things that go along with that, they feel like everybody else is getting a yes except for them. And the same thing happens is that they believe that they're the only one that's afraid, that they're the only one that feels unpredictable, that things are unpredictable, or things just aren't the way that they feel like they should be. But in reality, everybody is like that. And that when we talk about courage, courage is the ability to further on and continue even in the face of fear. And once you have them realize that when you can put it into an example of, superheroes, Spider-Man, Batman, all these different people are still fearful, but they push through. They still push through even when they have fear. And that's what happens when someone has courage, is that they are pushing through their fear and they're doing it anyway. And what you need to do is talk to them about courage and that they're not the only one that has this fear. They have the anxiety. Everybody does. Just some people are better at pushing through, and that comes with practice. That comes with understanding that when you want something, you have to push through the anxiety, push through the fear, and do it anyway. And everybody feels that way. And once you build up this process, it's going to get easier and easier. Another way that you can explain this to them is explain to them the roller coaster theory. That technically, your nerves, your anxiousness is really the same feeling in your body as excited. The difference is your mental interpretation of the situation as either a negative situation, hence anxiety, or a positive situation, hence the excitement. And so once you help the child understand that really these are pretty much the same thing, you're just putting a mental spin on it, then they can start changing their own mind about what's happening. Rather than saying, oh man, I feel really nervous about this, or I feel real scared about this, you say, you know what? I'm feeling really excited. The same situation happens on a roller coaster. You feel excited on a roller coaster because it's the uncertainty, but you could also think that you have anxiousness or you have anxiety about riding this roller coaster because is this a 3-loop roller coaster? Am I gonna get the very first car? Am I gonna go down too fast? Am I gonna get butterflies? The thing is that once you realize that these two feelings are the same, or if not very similar, they can change the way they think. Now, rather than saying, oh no, I'm scared, they can say, you know what? I must be really excited about this because I have butterflies in my belly, just like I do when I'm riding a roller coaster, or I get to see my friend again, or I'm going on a sleepover, or I'm going to get some sort of treat for doing such a great job. You get this feeling in your belly that can be determined or interpreted as either good or bad. But when you're getting a treat, you are excited. When you're going to do something new or unknown, now you're anxious or you're fearful. In reality, when you're doing something new, it's just that you're excited. So once you have them understand that they can switch this, then this is going to make a huge difference in their life. Because once again, now they can say, you know what? I must be excited about this because this is something new. Or I must be excited about this because I'm going to go meet a new friend. Or I must be excited about this because I'm going to go ask them to play and I'm going to have a good time. You can start changing the mental way you're looking at this, their own perception in their little brain, in their reality. And once you can do that with just a quick little word change from anxious or fearful to excited, this is a game changer in the way to treat kids with anxiety. Now, some kids, regardless of how many steps or techniques that you're using, They just can't quite get a grip on it. And it's something that's difficult for them. And some of the things you just have to change their routine. An example would be when you're dealing with a child who has anxious tendencies, you don't want to tell them early about something. If they're going to the doctor, then it's probably best that you don't tell them 3 or 4 days ahead of time. This is going to produce these anxious feelings. And regardless of the steps and the techniques that you've taught them in the worst case scenario, and they're just excited to go to the doctor, these type of things are just best left to the very end. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you surprise them with it. Surprise, we're going to get a shot. You want to give them enough notice, but not too much notice. And this leads us into our very last one, which was sometimes when we have a child and we've gone through these steps and we've done our very best and they just can't quite get over that hump, it may be time for some therapy. It may be time for some professional help. Sometimes we just need to be able to talk about these type of things. We need to say it's okay to get help. It's okay to ask for help and get some professional help on how to take these strategies to the next level. But in reality, we have to understand and we have to teach our children that everybody is dealing with something. Everybody is struggling with something. And that in this case, they are struggling with anxiety. And if they are having symptoms over months and months, it's time to get some help. So many times parents just want to sweep it under the rug. They just want to say, you know what, it's just a phase, or, oh, they'll get over it, or they just need to toughen up. They need to buck up, do it old school. But in reality, what we need to make sure that we're doing is that we're nipping this in the bud. We need to make sure that these kids are getting the strategies and the help that they need right away, because if it goes too long, then it becomes a pattern. It becomes a routine, and then it's almost sometimes too late. And the good news, it's never really too late, but it just becomes a struggle. It's harder and harder to change these ways once it becomes a pattern. So don't be afraid to help your child, to get the help that they need. It's not a stigma. Talk to your school, talk to your school counselor, talk to your teacher. All of these people are a wonderful resource in enabling these children to do the best they can. And when they have all this help, when you've gotten help professionally, when you've talked to the guidance counselor, when you've talked to the teacher, and all these people, their support group, are helping them with all the little tips and tricks that they have in their own tool belts that can help, as the community, help your child overcome and do the very best with their anxiety. So my friends, I hope that this has helped you. I am very empathetic. As a school teacher, I see the anxiousness and the hurt and the everything that's happened in these couple years, because everything has changed and our psychology has changed and our world has changed. And we need to make sure that our kids have what they need to flourish. And I hope that if your child is dealing with anxiety, if they're dealing with something mentally that they need help with, that these tips and tricks and strategies will help them. And at the very worst, or the very best, either one, they can get some help. And you are able to have said, you know what, I did A, B, C, D, and E. Now it's time to go to the next level. So my friends, I hope that this helped. Please make sure that if you like this information, please give it a thumbs up. If you believe that kids are the number one most precious resource that we have in this world, then please hit subscribe. Please help us spread this word. And through association, the two most important people on the planet are parents and teachers, because they are the ones that cultivate this amazing resource that we're going to have for generations to come, our future generations. And when they can overcome anxiety, when they can overcome the lack of confidence, when they can blossom and bloom into the very best that they can be, we as a parent and as a teacher, we know that we fit into this most important people on the planet category because we have done everything that we can for our children and for this society. So my friends, as I said before, please hit subscribe, please hit like, and please help us spread this information to as many people as we can. My friends, if you like this video, you probably are going to love so many more videos from bestkidsolutions.com. I want you to go right over here and click on these other videos that's going to help teachers and parents.